Hello and welcome to the Year We Started podcast. It's a podcast born phoenix-like from the ashes of last year's podcast. I am your co-host, Jeff. Nick, that's who I am.
The co-host. I'm the other co-host, Nick, is who I is.
And this is a podcast where we talk to each other on the internet, where our levels are leveled, and we're a couple of friends also as the podcast hosts, and we're also half a continent apart, and we would like to come together once on occasion and talk together about some of the things that are fun and interesting to us right off the script. Perfect. 10 out of 10. Hi, Nick. How's it going?
This is good. This is a good day, Jeff. How are you, Jeff?
Last time, Nick, we talked, I mentioned, I think, in a passing comment about the fact that I was going to be officiating a wedding soon.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So, we're so on fire right now. I'm back to checking to make sure I'm actually recording. I am actually recording. Okay,
that's good.
This is good.
This
Craig's
is a good
listening. We're good. All right. So I'm a professional.
Great, Jeff.
I'm a professional. So I mentioned that I was going to be officiating a wedding, and part of officiating a wedding is you have to do the rehearsal dinner. That's to make sure that you got all the things ready to go, and at least within a quick revisions distance of what's actually going to happen during the ceremony, right? That okay. Seems. I mean, because you've not had the pleasure of officiating a wedding of any sort, I assume.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Never done that.
Can't say I 100% recommend it. Anyways, here's and I can say this. I'm going to be speaking a little more probably liberally than I should about this, because I know that there's a 0% chance that my brother-in-law actually ever listens to this, or his wife. So we got together 9 days before the ceremony, and I wanted to walk through the ceremony and what all things, what do you want me to do and not do, say and not say, how long you want to spend on certain parts or not certain parts, or skip or whatever.
How silly should I be, because I'm a silly guy. I like to make a lot of jokes.
Nicholas,
big jokester.
There's jokes the whole way. That's part of that's before we even say yes. Is it okay if I say some jokes? There were jokes, and it was okay. But the problem was not that there was a little bit of lack of planning on what do you want during the ceremony, which is fine. That's my job as the unpaid officiant to figure out.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
All unpaid officiants always have to do this, of course. Yeah.
So then it came to the last question I asked, which is okay, after I pronounce you all husband and wife and blah blah blah, kiss the bride, and then say that you all are, I present to you such and such, and then I send you on your way. After you're done getting cheered off the stage and do all that jazz, do you want me to then announce hey, the couple's very thankful for y'all being here, the reception is at wherever the reception is going to be at, and say all that stuff at the end? And that led us to the reception, to which I realized their current plans for the reception was my brother-in-law, who I was doing the wedding for, he was going to, as the groom of the wedding, have on his phone a Spotify playlist, and that was their current plan for how the night was going to go.
Hold on.
Which is, I mean, I know wedding planning,
there's a lot to it. I don't envy people who have. I eloped because I didn't want to do all the junk that goes along with it. There's a lot that goes with wedding planning.
Yeah, and no harm, no foul. But also, if your plan is to have a reception, and do all this and not elope, you want to have the ceremony of all of the people coming to the place, and your current plan is play music and expect that is and I don't want to yuck any yums or anything. Do what you want to do. But it quickly became apparent, through conversation of what do you want your wedding to be like, your reception to be like? The things they wanted to have happen were a lot of the stereotypical things that you would have at a wedding reception. And you don't just have that sort of thing happen.
No,
that's just not a normal thing that just just organically happens. That
some people start getting speed speeches.
Or yeah, like there's speeches, and like now we do
There's
the
cake.
first dance, and now we have the mother and daughter, or the daughter father dance, and the mother son dance, and then the dollar dance, and the shoe game, and like all the just the typical wedding things. Like it's not just gonna spontaneously combust into like your reception. So I explained to them.
You don't think the dad's just gonna start dancing with the daughter? Just like grab the daughter. It's all right. It's the daughter. It's dance time.
Anyways, I don't really have a whole lot to say other than I was honored to officiate the wedding and happy to step in as brother-in-law and help MC the reception along with their best man. Shout out to Ryan, who also doesn't listen to this, I guess. But between him and I, like we made sure that they had a proper reception, and it worked out really good despite neither one of us being wedding planners in the slightest,
Good.
or being MCs or DJs or any of the above. It all worked out though, and it was good and fun, and they had a good time. I did tell some good jokes. One thing that I did love about the experience though, Nick, and this is actually why I want to talk about this, is two stories. And the first one is about the preparation, and then the second one is about the preparation also, but specifically around printers. So
No, more printer talk.
I don't.
No.
I won't yell because I think my voice is still recovering. In fact,
From yelling at the printer.
from yelling at the flipping printer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. This is dumb. This is bad technology. It's all we.
No, we all four of us in my family, we immediately got sick the day after the wedding, which is like, oh, shocker. Not the COVID, not the on brand thing, just store brand random
good.
colds and whatever. But such as
Off-brand.
life. I feel
It's
the off brand, the Dollar General brand of
Real quick, I'm not trying to interrupt, but I had my nephew gave my wife a nasty cold / maybe sinus infection, and the three of us have had it. I got it from her after she got it from him, and it was like 2.5 weeks long for me, and I just wish it had been I just wanted it to be over. I was just like, please, I just want just explain it and go away. That's all I want. And I just want you to know that like COVID has even broken my brain around other diseases because it just makes me annoyed.
No,
So.
and it's really interesting too because like I in 2020 of January 2020, if I would have gotten sick, I would have gone to work because that is what you do. And now it feels so weird to even think of that as a thing. Like
100%.
The last 2 days I've just worked from home because why would I? Like I had a couple in-person meetings that I typically would like to do, specifically one with my entire team, like where we go over all the things that are going on and figure out what we're focusing on for the week and how like whatever roadblocks there might be. But which is a great thing to have in person. I love when we're able to do it. But the thought that I would knowingly like being sick go into a room with
Like, what?
6 other people, like
The most selfish person in the world is what that sounds like, right?
Like it just that would have been an absolute normal thing to do, but now seems like that's so pointless. Like, sure, it's great if I can, but also the amount of productivity my team will lose if I give everybody a cold on the exact same day. Like that seems so silly to even consider that. And like it's no big deal, like because we're all adapted to like figuring out how to do remote. And I don't want to say like it's a 1-to-1 thing. It's not. But like not every weekly meeting has to be batting 1,000 here. Like it's okay if we have a mediocre one here and there, if it's like at the cost of not getting everybody sick. Like that seems like an okay cost to pay, and it just seems very weird that it took a pandemic for that to be like a totally obvious thing to do.
This cannot become a COVID episode because like that can't be this. We've all done it forever. No. I just wanted to say I completely agree. When I worked retail, even like not your boss would give you crap for not coming to work if you weren't like outright vomiting and like dying on the table. You know what I mean? And I was like, guys, if I come into work, yes, I know. If I don't come in, I know it's one more less person. If I come into work, I get you sick. Why would you want to go to work, guys? Like,
and being sick is generally terrible. Like,
yeah, like I was like, yes, I want to, contribute. I get it. We're part of a team. Blah blah. Dude, do you want to be sick? Like it's a weird thing to want. I'm sorry. I agree with you, and the hopefully silver lining of us all having a better perspective on people being sick.
Okay, yeah. So this is not even a thing I wanted to actually talk about, but it does. I do like it. It makes me happy just to think about. Like, man, you know what? There are some pros. Anyways, okay. So there was the like planning for the actual ceremony, but one of the things that was always going to be a thing was the church that we were going to be doing the ceremony at. They had a requirement that the actual like pastor and whatever other like staff, they had to do an interview of me to, like, I don't know, make sure I'm not the flying spaghetti monster pastor or whatever. That's like,
you're not secretly like a Satanist or something, right?
Right, and that like I don't have some secret agenda. So this whole
secret wedding officiant agenda. You know, the ones I've heard of, these certain wedding officiants who are just out here to scam money or something.
And their defense, it's a pretty prominent church in Wichita, and they don't want just to have like any crazy person going out there and saying whatever crazy things at
totally.
the church. So like they at least want to, you know, just give me the quick, you know, the once over to make sure I'm not completely insane. But what happened was they were busy and etc. And I totally get that. They were supposed to call me, and like we were gonna have a over the phone interview, and they just like never called me, and it kept being like, oh, they're gonna call me like soon. And so eventually, like, I'm like, you know what, I don't want the stress of like not knowing that this is a thing that is done over me. Like, I'm going to call, like, I'm going to now take the initiative to like make this happen.
Yes.
And so like I finally take the initiative to call the Friday. At this point, it's 8 days before the wedding. I call Friday at 1:00. Turns out their office closes at noon that day on Fridays. And so like I've missed that. So at this point, it's going to be the following week at best. They call me back, and I still don't know the actual like rules that they have for people that are allowed to officiate weddings at their church. But they called me back and referred to me as Pastor Jeff. Which I how
was that for you? Was that cool for you? Were you into that?
I'm legally ordained.
Can I call you that then? It seems like it's an appropriate title, Pastor Jeff.
I don't know. First off, stop doing that. It makes me uncomfortable. So I think that's the answer. But here's the problem. Like at this point, like we're you can now measure the amount of time to the ceremony in hours, and I really don't want to mess this up for them. So my choices are go with it and pretend that I am a pastor, or to risk clarifying it for seemingly no value, but also putting the entire thing at jeopardy. And also having the guts to actually come clean about it. And so you know me, Nick, if I can take a wimp's way out of it, I'm going to do it. And
I mean, same.
So,
but I do think you should have had fun with it, and you should have been like, "Hello and peace be with you." Just played it up as hard as you could have.
I didn't straight up do that, but like Nick.
Hello, my son. You should have said, "Hello, my son."
I was Pastor Jeff for the entire weekend. And the beautiful thing is, so like I didn't correct her on the phone, but then what that turned into is then we got to the shut up. Then we got to the reception, or not the reception, the rehearsal, like where I had to meet all these people with my own flesh and blood, and when we were doing the walkthrough, I got referred to as Pastor Jeff amongst my family and friends about 70 to 100 times. To which I am so grateful. Are you
just Pastor Jeff now?
I don't know how I could have like got them all to be on the same page, but they were totally like we're not saying anything. Like we are like everybody bought into the charade that we had.
It's not technically a charade, Jeff. They may have been the first person to call you Pastor Jeff, but you're ordained.
And then like the day of, they have like their regular like actual pastor like do a quick like welcome, and then like so I had to go up and like meet Pastor George as me, Pastor Jeff. And like all I could think of is like, how can I like I'm gonna use all of my social understanding to try to steer this conversation anywhere to any place other than what is my congregation like.
I don't know why not. You should have just been like, yo, oh, it's so good to meet a colleague. It's so great to meet a colleague. Oh, pastoring's rough, huh? Pastoring. Oh, I was pastoring the other day, and whew, let me tell you about pastoring.
I did ask her, how many weddings do you do here? That was the most brave thing I said.
Well, I would have loved for him to be like, you should know how many. You should know how many is appropriate. You know what
right, I do the right amount, you idiot. So anyways,
what's wrong with you?
That's my story about Pastor Jeff. There was only one reference to me being Pastor Jeff during the actual ceremony, which I'll say there's a big difference between 0 and 1 when there's another 200 and some odd people in the room.
That seems perfectly fair to the
Right. Originally, when it was just, the 20 people that we could all laugh about it afterwards, now there's 200 people out in the world that think I'm a lot cooler than I actually am.
What do you mean? You're very cool, Jeff. And you're a pastor. You're ordained. What do you want? Do you have a congregation? Don't worry about that. That's a future Jeff problem.
The worst one was the only actual like straight up I got called out moment was when I was getting mic'd up before the wedding. The AV guy asked, where do I pastor at? And then my answer was, I'm actually not an active pastor currently. But I left the door open as if like I had been in a past life. But like, yeah, nope.
Past life.
I'm not active currently. I just brother-in-law. But yeah, saying something like you're not active currently definitely has an inference
it's
there.
A feel. Yeah, that's a feel. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Anyways, but it worked. They didn't call me out.
Hell yeah.
It was good. Only almost cried one time, which is pretty good. Pretty proud of that. So
I'm proud of you too. No, that's awesome, man. It sounds like a fun time. I am giving you crap, but like, I mean, it's a weird and like somewhat awkward situation that they like made that mix up. But like, what are you supposed to do? Not run with it? Like not like you said, you would have been like putting some part of their wedding coordination in jeopardy. Like why do anything but run with it?
And now it's just a fun story.
And now you're Pastor Jeff forever.
And literally, Nick, that's truer than you think. The number of times I've been referred to as Pastor Jeff. It's a lot higher than it used to be, that's for sure.
Oh, that's really good.
Okay, so in the same vein, though, there was one more interesting thing that happened.
Ooh.
And this is the part that I was alluding to earlier, my talk about printers. Nick, I want to check your recollection, sir. What do you remember about my rant about printers where I yelled the loudest I think I've ever yelled on any recording or perhaps ever? And then where I ended with my printer journey.
Did you just get rid of your printer? I don't remember the details of it. I just remember general dismay at printers. Like, which, yeah.
So I got really mad at printers, and then I yelled about it on a podcast. And then I paid way too much money to buy a very, very nice printer to replace the piece of crap printer, and I loved it. As much as I hated old printer, I loved new printer. Or at least that's how I remember it. And then my kids got older, and then like there was lots of reasons to print things, like they could practice coloring stuff, and I remember like having Transformer connect the dots and other stuff. And nowadays, like my son will want stuff printed off to color, or things that he's done like on a computer or iPad that he wants to print off and hang up or whatever else. So printer's been great. Like it's a laser printer, so not like the regular inkjet thing.
Yep.
And they can print like 2,000 pages before you need to replace the toner cartridge. So I've been doing a good number of printing things since we originally recorded that. It's probably been like I know exactly how long it's been, since May of last year, so over a year now that I've been printing things just as if you should be able to, where you just hit print print and it comes off the printer and you pick it up and you're happy and life is bliss. Nick, I printed off my all my notes and the entire message for the wedding for the rehearsal, and I went to the rehearsal and I took a bunch of notes down, and I'm like, all right, tomorrow morning I'm gonna wake up. The wedding's at 2:00. I need to be there about noon. I'm going to wake up. That'll give me plenty of time to make all the changes to like my message and like the order of events and all that jazz. So it's a nice, easy, smooth thing. I don't have to like try to decipher my own notes that I've made on top of my own notes. And then so I wake up. This is Saturday morning, day of the wedding. I go through, I make all the changes that I want to make. I, add a pithy remark here or there. It's perfect. I'm as happy as I'm going to be with it. I hit print, and then I find out that I'm out of black toner. And I quickly, like, back in my inkjet days, Nick, I know there is ways to get around that. Usually, like, you can print, like, I want to print everything instead of black. I want to print it in like really, really, really dark blue, and like the colors can mix to do that. Not with laser printers, Nick. At least not with the one that I bought.
Nope.
And so I'm like, so here's an interesting situation. I need to print this off. I need to leave in 1 hour. I have not started getting ready. Finding a place to print something off, Nick, is not like, I don't know. Like, maybe there's people that are like more level-headed and come up with a better answer than what I came up with, which was ultimately to drive to my work after I dropped off my wife, who was one of the bridesmaids, so she could do pictures, so that I could like drive 10 minutes away to my work, go up the elevator, print it off, come back down, and show up to go meet Pastor George to talk about how well prepared I am and such. But anyways, Nick, it worked out, but I don't know. I literally when I hit print, and then it was like it didn't work, and then I looked up at the message and it's like out of black toner, and like I did the initial, like I took it out and I shook it around, like try to hope that it would maybe be better, and then it wasn't, and then I could not print. I'm like, I've printed probably 2,000 pages off of this printer since I last ranted about it. And literally the first time I've had any meaningful issue with this thing at all was the morning that I needed to go be Pastor Jeff. Like, it just, if the world wanted to just put like one little asterisk of like, yeah, you think you might be good and all, but we know where you're actually at with this. I don't know. Anyways, that was just one little anecdote of printers. Even the best ones still find the absolute worst times to screw you over.
That is, even the good ones, dude. Even the good ones. That is absolutely accurate and also the worst, and I'm sorry.
Nick, recently, you and we've talked about books and stuff.
We have a lot, yes. But I like in a good way, a lot, yes.
A lot. A lot and fast. So...
do I sound normal? Like, can you understand me, Jeff? Do I...
Shut up. Okay. Why don't you introduce at least the first part of this? Because you know exactly where I'm going.
The first thing is simply that, for our listeners out there, if you don't listen to things at a higher speed, you can get used to... Jeff listens to things at a very, very high speed. He listens to your audiobooks and podcasts at a very high speed. And you can kind of normalize a higher speed a little bit at a time. But Jeff has taken this to an extreme I don't understand. Jeff, what do you listen to your books at right now?
So Audible goes up to 3.5. And
that number is not real. That can't be a real number for real people.
Here's my thing. I can do it if I've eased my way to it, but I have to be doing like literally just focusing on the thing. And I have to have eased into it over the course of literally hours of listening to the same narrator. And so that, to me, 3.5 is not reasonable. But I will say, Nick, my final speed where I found like, okay, if I actually do want to try to push this and I want to not go past where like I feel like I'm missing anything.
Yeah, because you can get into a point where the moment that you zone out for even a bit, where you're like, which way am I walking? And then all of a sudden you've missed, like, you know what I mean? It's very easy to lose your place.
Yeah, and that is definitely a concern with a lot of this, because like the actual answer also kind of depends on what you're doing. Like, for example, when I am like outside sitting on my mower mowing my lawn, that is literally the best like situation for listening as fast as possible. Like, there's a physical thing that I need to be doing.
Yep.
I by definition can't talk to anybody else or do anything else, and I'm already wearing ear protection. So like I'm already blocking out the rest of the world. And so in that instance, I can listen at around 3.2 or 3.3 speed. If what again, this is just based off of my most recent book. I have not actually practiced trying to push it faster on other things intentionally. It's mostly just out of like wanting to get done with whatever it is that I'm reading. What I found my default around. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I completely agree with that. Do you know what? I don't know if this is like the like a really common word, and I'm asking you like if you know what the word sky means. But do you know what a fire road or an access road is? Of course you do, right? Like crazy.
A fire road?
Yeah, a fire road or an access road.
I mean, I feel like I know what an access road is, but what do you mean by a fire road?
So, it, like when you on mountain bike trails or just trails in general, a fire road is like a road that's graded down and long and wide enough for a fire truck to access it, or just a truck. I guess I assume that's why they call them access roads. Yeah. So, like, I was going to completely agree with you. When you have a mindless, sometimes when you're climbing or transferring on a mountain bike, it's on, like narrow trails or single track or whatever you want to call it, stuff that, like, is kind of engaging. You have to pay attention to where you're going and stuff. And then there's one or two that I have around me that are, like, literally just an hour and 15 minutes of I'm on a fire road and I'm alone and there's not really anyone around and the trail is graded and wide and I could not fall or miss my turn if I were literally blindfolded. It's the most simple thing in the world, and those are times where I'm completely with you. I actually turn up the speed deliberately only on those times, and you've actually pushed me towards doing that in a good way.
Or at least what I think is maybe a good way, but like lots of like question marks. I don't know.
No, definitely in a good way. Because like to me, I get to consume more content and be a little bit more like engaged. But yeah, if I'm paying attention to if I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, if I'm like walking my dog and have to make sure my dog's not like actively eating something on the ground or whatever, if I'm a little bit more engaged, it's hard to do 1.7.
That's interesting. Yeah, for me, I'm right now at a point where I guess so. The vast majority of my listening to audio stuff is one, I'm driving to work, and two, I'm driving back home from work, or three, I am doing chores around the house. And I differentiate between driving to work and from work specifically because my ability to like when I'm driving home to just enjoy an audiobook is significantly more than when I'm driving to work, where I have like these thoughts of all the things I need to care about during the day that will like seep in. If they seep in for like a second when you're listening to something very quickly, like that can completely like you. Yes. The faster you're listening, the less time you need to completely derail like understanding even in the like slightest bit of like what all is going on. So I will say like what I've gotten to now is most things, and I guess also too I'll also differentiate, depends on what I'm doing, like what I'm listening to and how much I truly want to like remember all of it. If it is just mindless fiction, which is what I would consider Ready Player One, which is I just finished, to be the epitome of mindless fiction. That one I can listen no matter what I'm doing. Like the slowest that I would probably ever listen to that is at like somewhere between 2.9 and 3.1.
Oh my gosh, Jeff.
Which now that I've gotten used to it, and again, it's Will Wheaton as a narrator, who is a very deliberate and good like he does a good job of reading that book. It is unthinkable. I even after I had gotten used to it, again, I sped up over time. So like I started listening at like 1.1, 1.2, 1.5, 1.8, 2.1.
I'm stressed out hearing you say 2.9 is the lowest. Like I'm stressed out.
Oh, Nick. after I got used to like getting up there, like even going back to like I would, because when I generally used to do was I would bounce somewhere between 1.5 and 2.0. Like that would be like where I'd end up landing.
Yeah.
But then once I realized like I can keep pushing this forward, like I can get used to it. Going back to something like 2.0 felt like comically slow, and going back to 1.5 or 1.0 was like unfathomable. Like it literally felt like I was in the Matrix, like trying to do my best, like do my best, whatever the stupid Matrix thing. Anyway, like I was just trying.
Neo.
Yeah. I was trying to be Neo, and like it feels so silly once you get used to it. But I guess so all that to say, there's I looked it up, and I did some reading around on like what people think about this, and one of the biggest detractors that people toss out is the inflection and just general pace of speech and other things that you would lose if you're reading things quickly. And I guess before I give you my opinion on that, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, basically agree. I think it's right. I think as I pay more attention, I'm less in like as I speed it up too much, I feel like that's what I'm like missing, is I'm missing like tone and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it blends together too much.
So here's my response to that. And
get used to it.
I will say like lots and lots and lots of people agree with you, and my experience is that I don't lose out on that. Even like if I feel like I lose out on that, that is the part where I feel like it's going too fast and I'm not catching it. It's faster, but if I feel like I'm losing out on that, then I'm just listening to like words being read at a speed faster than I can like genuinely catch the tone and inflection and stuff. And that to me, like when I start losing the inflection or the pacing of speech and stuff like that, is where like, oh well, that's obviously too fast. Now I'm just listening to a person read faster than is humanly possible.
Right. Well, what I'll say is, it sounds to me like I should just be pushing it more. It sounds like I should just be like, screw it, try it higher and get used to it. I probably just don't spend enough time getting used to it.
Well, and maybe that's part of it. I definitely have listened to more audio stuff in the last 3 years than I have in the previous probably 20 years before that. So that's a big part of it. I do think that is kind of a learned thing. And probably all of us have different thresholds for where it makes sense and doesn't make sense. But what I would consider myself a little bit concerned about is what effect does that have on attention span or retention, but mostly attention span for me. And then also what, if any, potential issues that causes with just normal conversation. And I don't feel like I'm really at a point where I can say like it has any noticeable effect on normal conversation. But I could imagine a world in which if your default for like if the majority of the hours that you spend in taking conversation being at 3 times the speed of normal human speech, like that seems like that might not work out long term.
Nope. I think not.
And then attention span, I do feel like I can say my attention span's probably the worst that it's ever been, and I don't think this is particularly helpful for that.
No, I've been pretty concerned about attention span the entire pandemic. I was never like a person who was overly attached to their phone, and now I feel that I am. And I've been trying to rectify that, because I'm pretty sure it's just that I spend a lot of time at home goofing around on different devices and listening to stuff while I do stuff. And I'm completely with you, and I could see that just as a general side effect to too much like media consumption too, right? Like it's just a fact of like if you're just diving through content, like you're kind of stimulating yourself a lot of the time, right? So I don't know, it's hard, but I do agree with you. I think that like when you're really optimizing how much content you can consume, you're probably digging at your attention span at least somewhat, right?
Oh man, Nick, the way that you just said that, optimizing the amount of content I can consume, is like that. It's
not a good way to describe it. I
hadn't thought of it in that way, but oh my goodness gracious, that is the exact. And I'm at least I guess I could say at least it's audiobooks for the most part these days.
Yeah, no, genuinely, I think that's a good thing.
But like that part is good. But like, oh man, I don't think broadly speaking.
I really didn't mean to phrase it in like a mean way, because I'm completely with you.
No, it's not mean. That is the exact worry I have, is that I'm priming my brain to be as efficient as possible, as ingesting as many random bullcrap things as I can. And like and because like I mean, for the longest time, like if I wanted to like learn how to fix a refrigerator, which I've had to do a couple different times, or I wanted to fix something around the house or whatever, and I have a how-to video, like by default I can only listen to those at 2x speed. But if I get to the point, which is actually happening more and more, where like maybe this might have been like a year ago, but I mentioned the YouTube channel Summoning Salt, and that is the speedrunner channel, and they recently released a video about speedrunning some Mega Man stuff from back in the day, and I love those videos, and they're very well researched, and it's a very good storytelling. But I find myself looking down the barrel of an hour-long watch, and like there's no, I have to listen to this at 1.5 at least, and like I won't even notice. But like that sort of thing is like, I don't know if that's a good thing for me to have my brain do, and I don't know.
I know what you mean. It's really hard.
Do you want to listen?
I don't know, Joe.
Do you want to listen to Ready Player One at 3.1 speed?
Not really. That doesn't sound fun to me.
Here you go. Hold on. You have to do it. Because that's the thing, too.
I do want to hear it. It
sounds absolutely... Like, for me, I legitimately, Nick, I've listened to this book at this speed for 2 hours. Like, this is
normal. This is what you're used to now.
This feels normal for this book, for this narrator, Will Wheaton. And here's what it's like. Hold on.
From various John Hughes teen films who have been digital cut and pasted into the video. Halliday's dancing too, something no one ever saw him do in real life. Grinning maniacally, he spins in rapid circles, swinging his arms and head in time with the song, flawlessly cycling through several signature 80s dance moves. But Halliday has no dance partner. He is, as the saying goes, dancing with himself. A few lines of text appear briefly at the lower left-hand corner of the screen, listing the name of the band, the song's title.
That's not normal, Jeff. This is bad. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. So, like, I understood some parts of some of those sentences, but I couldn't tell you what I just listened to. Like, I couldn't tell you the words that just came out.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And listening to that for 6 hours is probably not the best.
Probably not. I don't mean to throw shade. Like I really mean it. I don't glass houses, right? Don't throw stones at glass houses. But it doesn't seem good, Jeff. That's not good. You shouldn't do that.
It's one of those things. Like, it's really hard because I do like the intentional use of it to be able to get through things more quickly than I would otherwise for things that I want to. I think and I actually would stand behind that as being a net positive. The problem is the adverse effects that it does for like consuming things that I don't want to do that to. Like, there are podcasts, like comedy things. I do not think that I should listen to comedy things.
No.
Anything other than 1 point.
And you don't want to be like used to it there. Yeah.
Like, that needs to be 1.0. Like, that is the whole point, and I feel like it's a little bit blasphemous to do it any other speed. Like, that is the artwork's reason for existing, is the pace that it is.
Yeah.
And, like, there is skill in that. But the problem is, by realizing that I can like legitimately listen to something at a third of the speed, or a third of the time it would take to consume, like, it just, I don't know, it's a level of self-control that's an interesting challenge, and I think might be something that ultimately long-term makes me enjoy things that are normal speed less. And
agreed.
I don't think that is probably worth the trade-off, which, I don't know, I need some internal reckoning with that, like, to decide where I want to do with that, because I do think I am actually pretty good at being able to comprehend books at a very, very fast speed.
Right.
So, like, I have lots of opportunity there. I literally could read 3 times the number of books that I would otherwise read.
Yeah.
Which is
awesome.
Which is cool. And, like, I don't, as I'm listening to it, and like from a drama perspective and all that, like I don't feel like I'm actually losing anything because I get really, really used to it. But it's just at what cost, and that cost is unknown, and I don't know. It's
a lot.
It's challenging for sure. A thing for Pastor Jeff to figure out.
Pastor Jeff, it's fair. That's yeah.
Really bold and brave analysis by Pastor Nick here.
Come on, I gave it all to you earlier. You said it yourself. Come on, I'm a good guy. Come on. No, I agree with you. It's a hard balance, and I don't blame you. And I also think like, that's one of the things that I've been enjoying about being outdoors is just the chance to kind of disconnect and destimulate a little bit, like be present in a moment as opposed to connecting to multiple things if it makes you feel better. So like I can't do most audio things without doing something with my hands anymore. Like I have to play, like I play so much Sudoku because it's the thing that I can do completely mindlessly. Like I can be engaged in a conversation, but if my parents call me or something, it's like, yeah, I better open up Sudoku so I don't just lose my mind. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I'm completely with you. I'm overstimulating myself too, just in a different way of like having to multitask my hands and my ears. So I don't know. I've tried very hard. We've had company both this weekend and a couple weekends ago, and I've been like, leave Sudoku alone. Don't open Sudoku. Be a friend. Be present. My stimulation problems are similar, just different. So I don't think you should listen to 3.0, especially over normalizing it. Especially, I know you listen to some comedy ones. I would say don't take those away from yourself in the pursuit of efficiency. But it's a hard. That's like our generation, man. We're always like, all of us are fighting overstimulation and like the draw of technology, and the downsides of it. So yeah.
So, real quick, when you like do your writing and stuff, do you listen to music?
No, not real. No, especially downhill. No, I would never do. I would never. People do, especially people play things on their or on speakers out loud on going downhill and just in general while riding. And anytime I'm on single track or going downhill or anywhere that I want to be, or I should be cognizant of things around me, I prefer to just be listening to the trail. And
that's
going
downhill. Is that just because the intensity of the thing that you're doing?
I mean, not necessarily. I also just think it's kind of rude. Like, you'll occasionally hear someone say that someone's coming behind you, or right. You can occasionally hear like most of my trails are multi-use. Most of the trails that I ride, not all of them, but a lot of the trails that I ride are multi-use. So there's hikers as well, and like I just think it would be very silly of me if I could hear hikers around a corner and I didn't, react to it because I had headphones in my ear. So yeah, stuff like that.
No, that's totally fair. One thing I've tried to do recently is like I'm not a big music person. Even when I am working out or whatever, which most of my working out is at home on a treadmill. So not really a concern about the other people.
Fair.
But what I've tried to do recently is listen to music during that, because obviously, like, I don't know, maybe other people are insane, but like there's no like listening to music at 1.5 speed is not a thing. Like music is made at the speed that it is. Like that's not a concern. And I do think, one, that makes me work out harder, and also two, it calms my brain a little bit in a healthy way. To not have, because if I'm at a point where I only consume audiobooks at 1.5 to 2.5 or even faster, like that's not great. But if I can at least have some sort of offset of like I'm just letting my brain chill out for a bit, in a way to take my mind off of things, as opposed to jamming as much possible information as possible. That's a thing that I'm thinking about as maybe a way that will help this sort of thing. Because it's not even just listening to things quickly. There's information available at all times at your fingertips, and like that's a challenge. And
it really is.
How do you fill your boredom? And I don't think always filling your boredom is a thing that you should do. Like I think being bored is okay sometimes.
I think it's also very natural, right? Like I feel like we're probably the only generation that has ever like tried to fight boredom as a concept this hard, right? Like most people, I think even when I was in high school, there were days that like after school, it was like, oh, I got a new CD, I'm gonna go listen to a new CD, and like I probably wasn't as I probably had more options with the fact that I had video games than your average person in the 80s, 90s, 70s, but and I had the internet pretty young, but I didn't have a computer till I was like 15, 16 or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's like we're the first generation. It's gonna be okay. If you and I are bored for a little bit at a time, and for our listeners out there, if we're bored, it's gonna be okay. We're all gonna make it.
I think if we're bored, it's probably good.
It probably is.
I don't know. We could get into that, but at this time we're good on time. Anyways, Nick, the football season is here. It's good too, at least so far. We'll talk about football things and I'm sure other things. If you want to, you can check us out on the weeks that we do not release this podcast. There's the Restart Another podcast, patreon.com/TiWasApp.
Yes. You can find all of that at TiWasApp.com and on, oh gosh, what's our list? I'm sorry, I'm supposed to have the list.
On social media.
On social media. On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but not it's not Snapchat, and at TiWasApp.com, like I already said. Before I hop it over to you, I also want to say for our Patreon one, I have just marathon through Fire and Blood, the book that the new Game of Thrones spinoff, House of the Dragon, is based off of. And I want to tell you all about it, but I figure it's like me just giving you a thing. But oh my god, Jeff, it was so good. I like want to just ramble on about it forever to everyone who will possibly listen. And I'm pretty sure that's what this podcast is for, and at least our Patreon, right?
I think you're right. So yeah, there you go.
So there you go.
Come hang out on the Patreon podcast. All right, Nick. With that, I'm a little trepidatious at this point. Is that a word? That I want to have the next episode because now you're going to try to bully me into reading another book that I'll definitely not read at 3.1 speed.
Well, Jeff, this is what I was thinking about. Okay, let me pull these back up because I had it up and I didn't want to detract when we switch topics. But so the book was only 24 hours, which is 8 hours at your pace. It's really no big deal, right? And then also the first 5 books in the series are all around like 40 to 50 hours, but at your pace, that's only 13.
Nick, we need to talk about what I'm listening to next. All right, Nick, thank you for potting with me.
Thank you so much. This is you're welcome. This has been the year we started the podcast. Thank you all for listening.
I feel so welcome.